So there's a ton of theories going around, and some of them have more merit than others. So what I want to do is take a picture of all the top fan theories floating around right now and talk about them. So fan theory number 1, because Zelda has short hair, she's playable. That's the joke. So we know that she might be playable, that Nintendo has thrown around that idea in the past, but they eventually settled on it. It kind of screws with the balance of the Triforce. They could come up with some idea that maybe since Zelda used the Triforce to seal Ganon, that now she can, now it's not part of the next storyline or some sort of mess like that. My theory is, though, I think it's far more likely that Zelda's going to have some sort of support role, which she's had in things like Spirit Tracks and really every single Zelda game. She has some sort of either narrative support or mechanical support role, like game mechanic support role. And I think this time she's going to be much more of a game mechanic support role than a narrative support role, especially after games like God of War has come out. They've admitted that they're very influenced by Red Dead 2, so I think they're really looking into newer kind of open world game mechanics, and I think the idea of a companion character, kind of like Skyrim or something, could also be very, very there. So that'd be my theory, is maybe she'll be playable, but I think it's more likely we'll see her just be a support role character. The next theory we're going to look at is that the body that has awoken is not only Ganondorf, but it's good Ganondorf. So in this theory, Ganondorf is a good guy, and it's highly supported. The one big fact that supports this is the picture of the guy with the Master Sword sealing Ganon in the 10,000-year-old tapestry that you see in the game is a long flowing hair Link looking person, but he does kind of look like Ganondorf a little bit when you think about it with that long flowing hair. I think that's just more of a fluke of the artwork. The long flowing hair to me points to something else, but we'll talk about that later. I don't think that one piece of evidence is enough to say that Ganondorf is going to be a good guy. That seems extremely far-fetched to me, because then where's the Link-like character in this picture? Or maybe it's not Ganondorf is the good guy, but maybe it's the hero of old. That's another way they're saying it. But I don't think the hero of old would look and act that creepy. And so they admitted that it's going to be a dark Zelda, and so either it's all a joke that this is a dark game and he's actually a good guy, or it's actually a dark game and that guy is not a good guy. And I think most people are willing to admit that, yes, they're trying to make that guy look like the bad guy of some form, and I think that's pretty definitive by the fact he looks creepy. So the next fan theory we're going to talk about, this one's a highly, highly popular one, is that the thing that's waking up is Ganondorf. So in this fan theory, this theory is one of the more widely accepted theories, and that the thing that you're seeing come to life is Ganondorf. And Ganon and his creations, Calamity Ganon and his creations, were just puppets trying to take over the kingdom, that this is the source of the malice. And this is supported by the fact that you see a malice-like thing coming out of him. Maybe that's malice, maybe it's not, but you see a malice-like thing coming out of him. He's being held down, but he's obviously not dead, and he looks evil, and he's wearing Gerudo symbols, and he has Gerudo jewelry on, and he's got red hair. And so a lot of that really points to the fact that you think it might be Ganondorf, and so that is the presiding theory right now, that this is Ganondorf. He's the source of the malice from the original game, and now you're dealing with the original problem. Also, this is supported by the fact that the spell or whatever seal you see him being sealed down has Gerudo lettering in the magic spell or whatever, and that Gerudo lettering says Seal Ganon. It's speculated to say Seal Ganon. It's difficult for people to translate because it swirls in and out, but that's kind of where the consensus has lied, that it says Seal Ganon. So if it says Seal Ganon and Ganondorf and Ganon are kind of tied together, it's probably Ganondorf that's being held, right? Well, we'll talk about that more in a second. Another citing that this is probably Ganondorf is the fact that you see a trident in the hands of a person riding on a horse. And trident and horse very much brings to mind Phantom Ganon. And so I think that's possible that the person being painted is Phantom Ganon. A lot of people assume if they're looking at the painting, then necessarily you're looking at the person they're about to find. I don't know if that's 100% true or not. It could be they're finding all sorts of paintings of evil people that they're passing, and that this person may be as evil as all the evil paintings they're passing up, or that those paintings could be something different entirely, because a trident is used by a lot of warriors and stuff. One thing to note, the problems with this theory is there is no facial hair. Why would he have lustrous long hair but no facial hair? I don't think they would have missed that feature. Two, there's another weird thing about it. He's got fangs. There's no fangs on Ganondorf. I don't think Ganondorf has fangs. So that's something to consider too when we're trying to figure out who this guy is. So another supporting feature that this may be Ganondorf is it seems he has some sort of wound that the hand's grabbing onto, and that wound would be in a very similar position to the sword wound from Ganon from Twilight Princess, where he was impaled by the sage's sword, and that wound never heals, and he is stabbed by the Master Sword again and dies in the field at the end of Twilight Princess. And that is how he was sealed away. Now, I don't know if that's going to work as well, because how to do the Gerudo sealing, that very Gerudo jewelry hand, maybe that's the Twilight hand from Midna, but I don't think it's not the right color, and Midna doesn't wear a lot of jewelry and things like that. She's really more covered in tattoos, and so if the hand had a bunch of tattoos going up it, it would seem more like a Twilight hand. I don't think that's a Twilight hand holding him down, and I don't see a big wide glowing crack like kind of wound. It just seems more like his being held where his like heart and soul kind of, you would imagine that being in the middle of a body. That's more what it seems like to me. A more unpopular but similar theory is that Demise is in fact the person being held down by the hand and being awoken. And so Demise was sealed in Skyward Sword in the battle long ago by the goddess Hylia, and you seal him again in Skyward Sword, and he puts an enmity between you and the Zelda and him, and that he's going to come back over and over again to try and take Hyrule. And this is the Ganondorf Ganon cycle, that Link and Zelda stop Ganon over and over again. That's like the beginning of the cycle. But this is in fact Demise himself. So this is interesting because Demise is actually supposed to be a god, not just like a magical being like Ganondorf or some sort of reincarnated being. Like he's actually supposed to be like Din and Furore and Nehru and Hylia. He's actually supposed to be a god character. So that would be very interesting to see him like decayed like that. Also, I think some of the problems with the Demise theory is that the hair doesn't look quite right. It's long and flowing. Demise's hair looks like fire, like he's a Super Saiyan with fire coming out of the back of his hair, not necessarily like this guy's. So I think that theory is a little weaker too, because the nose doesn't look like Demise. Demise has a very flat nose, and if we're going off facial features and stuff, I would say the no facial hair thing kind of works, but the flat nose, it definitely isn't there. And there is some sort of a nose, like a diminished nose for sure, but it's more of a pointed nose. And there's several enemies that we know of with pointed noses that aren't Demise. Alright, so this next theory is that Link and Zelda have gone back in time just before all the events of the calamity started happening. So about 100 years ago. It would have been before the Sheikah stuff started appearing, but it would have been in time to save everything, and they're going to find the cause, the source of the malice, and end it before it destroys everything. The main proof for this is that you see a slightly more finished out castle in the view in the trailer than you do the view at the beginning of the game. I still think you would see Castletown. I think if this theory were true, you would see less destruction on the Great Plateau. I think it would have looked less deserted. I think they're very much trying to give you the feel of that empty, open, wild Hyrule that you were in the Breath of the Wild, not a robust city like Hyrule, like you would imagine the precursor civilization to be. So I don't think that theory holds a lot of ground. Will there be time travel or dimensional travel? Very possibly. We'll talk about that more in a second, but that theory itself doesn't seem super likely. Now, for the final theory, which is my theory, is that the figure you see that is being awoken is in fact a Yuga-like figure. So, if you don't know, Yuga is from A Link Between Worlds, and Yuga is a character that turns people into paintings, like the paintings that they were walking by, and he paints them into the wall, a lot like the paintings that Link and Zelda were walking by. Also, Yuga is a low rule character. Now, low rule is an alternate dimension. Now, here's a cool thing about low rule. Low rule has another counterpart for everybody. So there's a Zelda in Hyrule, and in Low Rule there's a Hilda. There's a Link, and Ravio is the Link-like character in Low Rule. And then there's also a character that we don't see a counterpart to, and that's Yuga. Now, Yuga is a Gerudo-looking character. He's not particularly Gerudo, but he's also from Low Rule, where everything's a little different. Yuga has long, flowing hair. Yuga turns people into paintings. Yuga has no facial hair. Yuga is trying to resurrect Ganon. And Yuga, his counterpart, hasn't been revealed. I think this is the counterpart to Yuga. This is someone who's tried to resurrect Ganon in the past. I think this counterpart could perhaps be Yiga. Now that name sounds familiar, doesn't it? Yiga, the Yiga clan trying to resurrect Ganon. Notice that they live in the Gerudo area where the Gerudos live. Why do you think their base camp would be so close? We know that Yuga wasn't necessarily a Gerudo, but we don't know if the Gerudo even existed in Low Rule in the same way. But certainly, if he was a male born to the Gerudos, he would have been a Gerudo king like Ganondorf. He would have had reason to resurrect Ganondorf. He would have possessed magical abilities like the Yiga did. And his name very well could have been Yiga. And he could be the one that has the Gerudo symbol swirling around him. It says Seal Ganon, but perhaps that says Seal Ganon because he's very much entwined with trying to unseal Ganon. And he is being held still because they know if he's resurrected, Ganon will no longer stay sealed. Now, I like this idea the best because if it's Yiga, the Yuga counterpart, there's a chance that Link could be jumping in and out of paintings, that Link could become a painting again. There's all sorts of cool things. He could be going in and out of dimensions like Low Rule, except not necessarily Low Rule. Could be Dark World. He could be jumping to and from time. There's all sorts of ways that they could refresh the Hyrule they currently live in. I love the idea that it's like a Mario 64 hub world where you're just jumping into paintings, going into deep temples, trying to fish out Yuga and what he's doing. Alrighty, so those are some of the leading theories I see right now about the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild trailer. If you know of some, let me know in the comments below. If you like my theory, let me know why. If you dislike my theory, let me know why. If you have your own theory, let me know about it. Also, like if this video was entertaining, and subscribe if you're looking for more videos like this one. We do all sorts of gaming content. We're going to have more content not only about Zelda, but more content about other games that we love and why we love them, a Geek Out series. And I think I'm going to start with Star Fox 64. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. This has been Adam with Tech Dive Gaming.